News Radio 1020 KDKA.
All right, here's what I'm going to read you. I'm going to read you something. This is the front page above the fold, as they call it in the biz. The Wall Street Journal. This is yesterday. I lose track of my days. Anyways, as we say in Texas, a shale oil boom will help the U.S. overtake Saudi Arabia. I'm going to repeat, a shale oil boom will help U.S. overtake Saudi Arabia as the world's largest oil producer by 2020, a shift that could transform not just energy supplies, but also U.S. politics and diplomacy. Wow. Folks, that's in our backyard. That's here. Marcellus Shale, gas and oil, we will rule. It changes everything. We don't have to worry about Syria. We don't have to worry about it. Just don't worry about it. We have our own resources. We don't have to protect that part of the world with hundreds of billions of dollars in American lives. This is where we're headed. That's why we're going to have this conversation today. We have to get past the silly, petty attacks on the fastest growing industry in the world. And guess where it is? Under our feet. I constantly talk about this. Here's the dilemma facing America today. I'll use the iPhone as an example. We love the iPhone. We love Apple. We love Apple employees. They have about 47,000 employees in the States. They have 725,000 employees in China. Uh-oh. Why? Because they pay them 63 cents an hour, and they make cell phones and cell phone glass screens in the middle of the night when they wake them up from the dormitories they live in. We can't compete to that, and that's just one example of 10,000. The Chinese can't compete with the gas we have under our feet. They can't jack with it. They can't steal it. They've got to buy it, and when they buy it, it creates jobs for us. It's gold, baby. It's gold, and it's under our feet. It's going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs in our region. So this petty, ridiculous, silly gamesmanship being played in our backyard over this amazing resource is what we're talking about here this hour. And here's what we're going to talk about. There's a state rep out of Washington County, Jesse White. I know him personally. In fact, we're going to talk to him live in about 20 minutes. Here's how this goes down. Jesse White had this amazing relationship with Range Resources. You can't argue that. Range Resources. Range Resources here in our region, a relationship some would call cozy. How cozy? Jesse White sent emails to Range Resources, emails that I have, where he asked for a corporate plane ride to the Super Bowl. And then he complained in other emails. Now, he says all these things are fabricated. I don't believe it. These are legit and real. So first, Jesse White asks for tickets on a plane, a seat on a private jet to the Super Bowl. Ha ha, he he. And then he asks for more money from Range Resources and expresses his consternation that he's not getting more money from Range Resources. So now he says, once he decided that he didn't like their tactics, this is what Jesse White says, he didn't like their tactics, how they're conducting business, now he is out to go after, fact, this business, declaring it dangerous. It's going to hurt the environment. It's going to hurt his citizens. This, my friends, happened at the same time that Range Resources cut ties with him. And by the way, there are videos out there that have Jesse White proclaiming the greatness of Marcellus Shale. There are videos out there with Jesse White proclaiming the greatness of Range Resources. This was his effort from day one to get jobs to his region. And by the way, they're there. They're there. Folks there are killing it. And the truth is the truth, and the truth will set you free. This is kind of the dirty, kind of sleazy underbelly of what happens sometimes in politics. Matt Pizzarella joining us from Range Resources. First of all, this is the first time that you've talked about this to anybody live. Why do you think it's important that you address this
Well, look, I think you said a mouthful, and I think you put it out there. And the question that I personally have received, and many people at Range have received, in fact, literally while you were speaking, I received emails from people who have leases with us. And what they've always asked is kind of what's going on with this guy. He went, as you had pointed out, to be a really outspoken supporter for basically 5 years that we had worked there. And then over the series of weeks or months or whatever it's spread over, basically did a 180, and now is he has accused us of violating federal laws by hiring illegal workers. he's accused us of extortion, plain and simple. Those are his lines. These are all accusing someone of a crime, right? In addition to that, demanded federal investigations on literally nonsense, which newspapers have since debunked. And people have always said, what has gone on? And what we had always wanted to do was have a good working relationship with everyone, not, frankly, I'm sure there's some expression about rolling in the mud with pigs and that sort of a thing, and we'd prefer to not do that. We want to be the taller person, the bigger man, if you would. And it really reached the point of no return more recently because, again, there had been a barrage of this. So what we wanted to do is provide the missing context. We had been asked about this relationship, been asked, frankly, about these sorts of requests many times in the past, and felt that the public needed that. Because here's why, Marty. Here's the difference. It's not just saying this company isn't, quote, paying their fair share. It's not saying there's not enough local jobs. It's accusing people of crimes. It's saying that I believe in the past, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, this is the kind of person that has suggested people are getting cancer and things like that from this industry. That crosses the line. That frightens people. That scares people.
No, he has actually told me on the phone that folks in his district, because of your business, have cancer and are dying. Clusters of cancer.
Now, if anyone listening had that kind of information, wouldn't you go to the authorities? Wouldn't you produce some sort of evidence that would suggest that? Because let me tell you what, if he thinks that's the case, we want to know about it. I would certainly want to know about it because let me tell you, I grew up, okay, in the 15317 area code. I'm from Canonsburg, Cecil Township area. My wife is from that area. I would more than anyone want to know if we were causing problems. But to suggest those kinds of things to, let's be honest, someone in the media, someone with a big voice and drop those kind of hints, those are serious accusations and they frighten people. And that crosses a line. That's not fair. And that's not accurate. So what people need to see, and they can decide for themselves, is this a person that's being driven by their beliefs, or are they being driven by some other motivators?
You took the cookie jar away from him, and he's mad because the cookies are gone. When we get back, we're going to get into details. I got to tell you, I've been at this a long time. These emails are outrageous. The Super Bowl stuff, the stuff about donations at fundraisers, it's sketchy. You got to stick around when we get to these emails right here after the break. Folks, we'll be right back. All right, let's get right down to this for folks who think this is rhetoric. I'm not going to take phone calls right now because I want to get into the gist of it. And by the way, Jesse White, I've known him for years, and we've talked a lot, and he's going to call in about 15 minutes to defend himself. He says this is ridiculous. He says this is a smear campaign. He says he changed his mind because he has new information and concerns about this industry, period. But let's get into the emails. I have Matt Pizzarella here from Range Resources. So an email comes in from Jesse White to you, right? To your folks.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it says, and the email says, quote, I want to read this. It says, quote, just found out I had a few tickets to the game, and I'm looking at our travel arrangements. He writes in 2011 to one of your folks. If the Range plane was heading down, any chance we could stow away in the cargo hold? Now, he says this whole thing is a joke. He says he did nothing illegal or hypocritical. He just says that he was yucking it up with you fellas.
He actually says in the paper, he says that he was testing us. That was his test to see if he could trust us.
Right.
Those are his words.
Right.
Now, Marty, I know you cover a lot of seedy people, right, in the city.
Right.
Now, could you imagine if someone was caught, I don't know, let's just, I don't want to accuse anyone of crime, but we both have small children.
Right.
If your child's hand is in the cookie jar,
right,
and they say, hey, Dad, I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to test if you would catch me doing this sort of thing, it's a laughable excuse. Now, let's put some of these things into context, okay? Because the only test that's out there is the laugh test, and this one doesn't pass it. Because that is after he had known us for years. We had a relationship for years, and that actually post-dates all those requests for fundraisers and complaining that we're not raising him enough money and all this sort of thing. Now, the person that he sent that email to, Chief Operating Officer of the company.
Yes.
Now, does that seem like that's not, the kind of person maybe you joke around with those sorts of things, particularly given a lot of the things that have happened to other elected officials in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania along these sorts of lines, perks and requests and that kind of a thing. Now, at the end of the day, we're not comfortable with that kind of behavior.
So listen to this. It moves on from there. White sends an email to Range again. He's disheartened about the amount of money that they're sending him. I spent the better part of the day Tuesday working my colleagues on the House floor to oppose the proposed severance tax bill, which was defeated because a core group of 10 Democrats, myself included, flatly refused to vote for it, while other members who profess to support your industry were busy cutting deals in exchange for their votes. I take massive amounts of abuse from my constituents every single day about the Marcellus industry, he writes in the same email, and I believe I have done an honest and sincere job of supporting your efforts to create jobs and educate people about Marcellus shale. I just wanted to express my disappointment at this lack of public support. What he's complaining about is you quit giving him big checks, right?
We didn't give him enough,
right,
was the complaint, that the checks weren't big enough. Now, I don't think any of your listeners would consider that to be public support. In fact, I think that's the kind of thing that most people are uncomfortable with. They don't like that part of politics. Now, let me explain this. There's a misconception out there. People think that somehow drillers have these deep pockets, right, and that we write checks and, all these sorts of things with elected officials. The reality is, at that time, we had only just formed what's called a PAC, right? Political Action Committee. We had never really given to anyone in elected office until we started doing business in Pennsylvania. And you can see that, unfortunately, there are some people that behave this way. And at the end of the day, Marty, after several years, many years, someone's public support isn't worth our integrity being violated with these sorts of requests, making us, frankly, just very uncomfortable. You can see, those are emails that are sent to me. Makes me personally uncomfortable. I don't want to be put in that position. No one does. Now, what we would prefer is that someone make votes and try to create policy based on what they believe, their moral compass, what they think is right for their people who live in their district, not necessarily how big the checks are or what airplanes you're going to fly them on to Super Bowl games. It's just not anything that we're very comfortable with, and we expect bigger things from those in elected office.
In another email, Jesse White sent to Range, he said, Range spent $1,000 on a fundraiser when the event's contributions totaled less than $5,000, counting the Range money. White emailed Range on June 17, 2010, quote, "This was considerably short of the intended target, and to be perfectly blunt, I attest the low turnout to be a somewhat substandard effort in working your vendor list." He is angry. He is angry that you folks didn't get him enough cash.
Yeah, it's not something. Look, it's not something that anyone's comfortable with, right? I have to pick up. Let's say you're one of our vendors, and I say, "Hey, you got to come to this fundraiser." All these sorts of things, right? It's an uncomfortable situation, and then for someone to express anger or concern, the same kind of person that basically says that dealing with voters or his constituents, he refers to that as abuse. Again, not the kind of thing that we're comfortable with. And as you can see in those emails, right, like throughout the process, we try to take the higher road, but we're just, we're left short on it, if you would.
What he suggests is this is all preposterous. He suggests that there are more emails, but he suggested he can't release them. He says these emails are old. He doesn't believe they reveal any hypocrisy, and he wouldn't release them because he said they might embarrass Range and some of his colleagues. He's saying he's holding on to further emails that would embarrass you and your company.
I think he's embarrassed us and himself enough on this matter, frankly. And if that exists, then put them out there and let people judge for themselves. But what we want to do, Marty, is create jobs, lower energy prices, create tax revenues in Pennsylvania, bring cracker plants here, and all these good things, right? As you pointed out, the Wall Street Journal, front page of the Journal, says the United States can become energy independent. That's the kind of stuff that we want to focus our time and efforts on. We don't want to focus it on, these sort of baby games, for lack of a better word.
It's scary. Actually.
It is.
It's scary. We are expected to hear from Jesse White right after the break, right after the news. White says it's preposterous. He says he changed his mind because he now sees the light, that this is an industry that needs more regulation and that it poses dangers to his constituents. It has nothing to do with the Super Bowl. It has nothing to do with contributions. It has everything to do with him trying to do the right thing. We will hear live from Jesse White right here after the news. All right. Wow, the plot thickens. Hey, one thing about Jesse White, whether you like him or not, he always responds. Always. With me, anyway. I don't know. Jesse White, good morning. How are you?
I've had better days, Marty, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, let's get right to it. Sure. If I just look at the emails, by the way, I don't sandbag him. I'm straight up with him. We discussed this, what? Was it 8 months ago, 6 months ago?
Yeah, Matt Pizzarella has been trying to sell this story to the media for almost a year now, and no one's bought it until yesterday.
Okay, let's get right to the gist of it, because at their face value, the emails are sleazy. I mean, they just are. They characterize you as a sleazy politician, first of all trying to get Super Bowl tickets, and then a couple days after you don't get the tickets, you start going after them, right? You set up this committee, and then when you don't get enough cash from a fundraiser, your emails characterize you as strong-arming them and angry with them because they didn't give you enough cash. First, let's just address those two issues. The Super Bowl email where you say, can I get on your plane to the Super Bowl? Address
Absolutely.
that one.
I want to be very clear about that, Marty. I did not ask them for Super Bowl tickets. I want to be that.
No, you asked to get on the plane.
The thing was, Range was having an event at the Super Bowl. A lobbying event with all sorts of, big wigs and whatever. They were asking legislators if they were coming or not to get a head count. At the time, I was making plans to go to the game with a childhood friend of mine who was on leave from the military. I was trying to work out my travel. I said I didn't know if I'd be able to go or not to their event because I didn't know if I was going to be able to go to the game or not. And I joked around. I said, unless you let me stow away in the cargo hold of the Range plane, knowing full well there was no Range plane. It was a joke. And they know that. And
they have a plane, and they actually went to the Super Bowl, so it's not a joke.
The response I received even confirmed there was no plane.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then somebody's lying there. But that's neither here nor there.
Where's that email? I don't have that one. Do you have it?
I have it, yeah. And here's the thing, Marty.
Hold on, you'll get it to me.
Well, here's the thing. I have a lot of emails.
Okay.
I have a lot of emails. I'm not releasing them right now.
Why?
Here's why. There's a very good reason.
Okay.
This is a clear and concerted attempt to attack me by implying something that isn't really there. I mean, I heard Mr. Pizzarella just speak, and he dances around making a straight accusation because if you read the article, Common Cause comes right out and says, there's nothing illegal or unethical about anything I did.
But it comes off as sleazy to me.
I understand that.
But okay, let's get on to the second part of the emails where you expressed displeasure because they didn't raise enough cash at your fundraiser.
Right. Again, this is the fact that there were Range released 5 emails is very telling. I have emails from Mr. Pizzarella in which he, before this, says doing a fundraiser for you is a great idea. We'll set it up. And then they were going to do the fundraiser, and they said they were going to do X, Y, and Z, and they didn't follow through. And my point was, if we're going to do something, let's do it.
So is this the political world that if I have to go to these companies and I get cash, and if I get cash, I represent their interests, and if I don't, that's the take. If I don't get cash, I don't represent their interests.
And you're right, Mark. You just hit on the fundamental point that needs to be made here, which is why I'm not going to be drug into the mud with all this, which is the reason that Range is coming after me right now is because they came across somebody they couldn't buy. These emails are all 2 years old, and the thing was, I actually have an email from Range's chief counsel and chief operating officer, or whatever his title is, saying, I will give money to Jesse regardless of what he does in the future based on what he's done in the past. I've never been about money, and you could ask any lobbyist in Harrisburg, you could ask anybody out there. I put my conscience. I have the most concentrated area of Marcellus shale drilling in Pennsylvania, hands down.
Yeah, but hold on. This email doesn't dictate that. It says, I take massive amounts of abuse from my constituents every single day about the Marcellus industry, and I believe I've done an honest, sincere job of supporting your efforts to create jobs and educate people about Marcellus shale. I just wanted to express my disappointment at this lack of support. Then you go on to talk about how you fought the fight. I have spent the better part of the day Tuesday working my colleagues on the House floor to oppose the proposed severance tax bill, which was defeated because a core group of 10 Democrats, myself included, flatly refused to vote for it, while other members who profess to support your industry were busy cutting deals in exchange for their votes. And then you get angry because they didn't give you cash. It looks bad for you on this, does it not, Jesse?
I understand why you would think that, but if you read that email, you're talking about two different events, and that event in which you're referring to, there are the words in that email say, I did not ask you for money for this event. Those words are in there. I did not ask them for money. It was an event that was being held somewhere else. Range said they were going to send some people to help network.
I want to play this real quick. Play this, Steve. Sure. Listen.
My name is Jesse White. I'm the state representative for Washington County.
Can you tell me a little bit about the grant that you get?
The $100,000 grant given by Range to the Dollar Energy Fund, which will go to help low-income housing or low-income heating for people across Washington County, which actually is a $200,000 grant because the way the program works is the local utilities have to match it. So this was really a $200,000 windfall for the people that really need it in Washington County.
What's your thoughts on Range overall as a partner in the community?
I have a unique perspective. I came into office right when Range first started here in Washington County, so I feel as though I've kind of grown up with them over the last few years, and they've been a great corporate neighbor. Anytime we have an issue, I represent some areas where the Marcellus had just started, we're taking off, and there were some growing pains and some things that happened early on. They were willing to work with us, to sit down with us. They had a very open approach, and they've been all about educating people and making people aware of what they're trying to do and making people realize how this could be a benefit to the entire area.
Hey, Jesse, come on. He hung up. Is that him? Is he calling back? See if he's calling back. Is that him? All right. Jesse, now if you listen to that, it makes you seem like the cheerleader for the Dallas Cowboys cheering for the team on Sunday afternoon. How do you go from cheerleader to their bums? I don't get it.
I'll explain this very clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't get it. You know that. I don't get it.
Okay, here's the deal, and it's very important. So when Range came up here 5, 6, 7 years ago and started doing all this, we were able to work with them on a lot of issues. Their personnel changed. Their philosophy changed dramatically. And when they started doing things that were very clearly, to me, not in the best interest of my constituents, which would, I would say, culminate with Act 13, which would allow Range to put a compressor station or a drilling site basically in the middle of a residential housing development. When I saw the sleazy tactics that were being used to lobby to get that bill passed. And
what's sleazy? What's sleazy?
The way they were working on the floor. All you have to do this.
When you said you were working on the floor for them here.
Something totally different.
No, it isn't.
No.
Working the floor is working the floor.
No, I'm talking about a specific vote.
Yeah, but you said I spent the better part of the day Tuesday working my colleagues on the House floor to oppose the proposed severance tax bill.
Right, and there was a good reason, and I actually I explained very well why I opposed that bill, which was that it sent way too much of the money statewide, not enough locally. That was what it was about. But that's not what this is. Okay? What this is a scenario where I'll give you a very real-life example to kind of make it a lot simpler.
Yeah.
In late 2010, Range Resources held a public meeting in Mount Pleasant Township where the first Marcellus well in Pennsylvania was held. They packed it with people from industry that were not local. To come in there, they put a mob of 500-600 people there. And to basically say to the township, we want to be able to do whatever we want to do, and we don't care what you say. And they were trying to exert pressure. They also engage in a boycott of local businesses in Mount Pleasant Township, led by Mark West, which is Range's subcontractor, and admitted to by Range themselves that they were involved in. I had to call Mark West, I had to talk to Range, we got everybody together, they admitted it, and they knocked it off. So when I see tactics like that, when an industry is trying to strong-arm the small businesses in my district for no real reason other than to exert their pressure, that's the kind of thing that makes me give pause.
Yeah, but in your district, let's be blunt. It's been amazing for a lot of people. Range Resources and Marcellus. I mean, it's like the real world Beverly Hills for a lot of folks. Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, it's crazy. I've been in restaurants where the guy says, "Hey, I was out of business. I'm blowing it up now." I have had guys on this, they are crying because last year they made $27,000 and this year they made $80,000, and what this comes off as an angry, sour grapes politician, because that video was not altered. That video says to a guy, says to me personally, I love them. They're kings of the world. They work with us. They do whatever they want. They do whatever we want. They work with the community. How in the hell could they go from Jesus to Satan overnight? It doesn't. You have to understand, right, Jesse,
Sure,
that for me, the common sense thinking guy says there's no way this could happen. This Jesse White guy's full of it, right?
Here's how it happens. It's very simple.
Okay.
First of all, I want to be clear about one thing. I'm not opposed to drilling. Despite how this is being painted, I have, and you can go through every statement I've ever made, public or private, and they can't produce one that says otherwise. I have never called for a ban. I have never called for a moratorium. I have said I am for the safe, responsible development of Marcellus Shale. What has happened is, as time has passed and more facts have come to light, it's becoming clear to me that, in my opinion, as a lawmaker who has a lot of experience with this, Range is not doing things that would promote that culture. They are not, there was a public meeting in my home township of Cecil last week. They canceled it because they didn't want me there. And that's the township I live in.
This relationship that you had with a female, they're also suggesting that they wouldn't allow your girlfriend to run their fundraisers. You blew up.
I wasn't in a relationship with that girl whenever that fundraiser took place. That's just not true. And actually, to the exact opposite, we had broken up.
Because I talked to her. I actually talked to the girl. She said you had a relationship.
We were not in a relationship at that time.
When there was a fundraiser.
When there was a fundraiser.
Did you express consternation with Range because they wouldn't allow her to run this fundraiser? Because she says yes. My point in the email says it. It was that she had just done a fundraiser for Tom Corbett. She had been doing other fundraisers for Range. That she was the one who knew how to do that, and any personal issues were not of concern for me. That was my point, and that was the discussion. They're making much ado about nothing here, because here's what it boils down to. It comes off as sleazy to me, the whole thing.
Marty.
Okay,
I understand that.
Okay,
but here's the thing.
Yeah.
So Range sat on these emails for 2 years, by the way. So if they thought it was so horrible, it's funny that it's coming out right now. Let's look at the time frame right now. There's massive investigations going on with the DEP withholding and doing things with water testing results on Range's drill sites. It's received national media.
Yeah.
There's real evidence of things about carcinogens and things that really matter to people.
Well, I'm not seeing that. I mean, you suggested the cancer clusters
last week, Marty.
I haven't seen this evidence of cancer clusters in your district. Have you seen that?
Marty, I have a question. If someone's exposed to low levels of cancer-causing agents, do you think cancer shows up overnight?
Well, you suggested to me that there were cancer clusters in your district.
I said there are carcinogens that are not being reported. Just because if someone is exposed to low, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Would you feel comfortable knowing that your family and your kids had a drilling site nearby that had received test results from the DEP that withheld purposely levels of carcinogens that are known by
and you're saying Range Resources is doing this?
I'm saying this. This is what we know right now.
Yeah.
That they're on Range drilling sites in Washington County. The DEP is running tests for 24 heavy metals, many of which are known or suspected carcinogens. Of those test results, only 8 of the 24 heavy metals are being reported to the DEP field agents from the lab and then back out to the homeowner. This is very, very serious.
Every regulator in America does the same thing. I haven't seen any. Oh, okay, Jesse, we could talk about this all day long.
Here's what it boils down to.
Okay, please,
I'm going to summarize.
Please.
Here's what it is.
Yeah.
Is Range is coming after me because they know that they're in big trouble for their actions and the way they're conducting themselves.
Okay.
They know I'm the one guy that can't be bought.
Okay.
And here's the last thing I'll end with.
Sure.
Is it shows that they can't be trusted. And if Mr. Pizzarella wants to go down this road of releasing his emails with lawmakers about different things, why just me? I'm going to challenge Mr. Pizzarella to release all of his emails with all of our lawmakers. Why don't we start with my Senator, Tim Solibai, who has a bobblehead of himself standing on a Range Resources rig that he gives out at his fundraisers. So if we want to start talking about who's in whose pocket and who's really looking out for the people of Pennsylvania, let's look at all of it. Let's lay it all on the table, and then I think the answers are going to become fairly obvious.
Jesse White, a stand-up guy, never ducks from a battle. Thank you, Jesse.
You got it, Marty. Thanks.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
My name is Jesse White. I'm the state representative for Washington County.
Can you tell me a little bit about the grant that you get?
The $100,000 grant given by Range to the Dollar Energy Fund, which will go to help low-income housing or low-income heating for people across Washington County, which actually is a $200,000 grant because the way the program works is the local utilities have to match it. So this was really a $200,000 windfall for the people that really need it in Washington County.
What's your thoughts on Range overall as a partner in the community?
I have a unique perspective. I came into office right when Range first started here in Washington County, so I feel as though I've kind of grown up with them over the last few years, and they've been a great corporate neighbor. Anytime we have an issue, I represent some areas where the Marcellus had just started, we're taking off, and there were some growing pains and some things that happened early on. They were willing to work with us, to sit down with us. They had a very open approach, and they've been all about educating people and making people aware of what they're trying to do and making people realize how this could be a benefit to the entire area.
That's where it jumps off the map for me. I don't get how you're the Lee Iacocca for Marcellus Shale, and then you flip-flop and say they're bums and everything short of being criminals. I don't get it. Matt Pizzarella, back again with Range Resources. We had agreed that you wouldn't be on together. That was his deal. That's fine. I don't want people screaming at each other. But overall comment on his response.
Give me a break. I mean, come on. Those emails speak for themselves. And again, here's our perspective on things. Put things out there. Right. Allow the public to judge for themselves. Again, he said, I'm not saying, no one's accusing him of breaking laws or committing crimes or anything like that. But what we are saying is we believe that these emails do shine additional light. And I think anyone that would look at it would then say, this certainly appears to provide the hidden pages from the chapter.
He's accusing you of breaking the law. He's accusing you of putting illegal cancer-causing chemicals in the ground. I mean, it's scary what he's saying.
It is. That is exactly my point. It is scary what he's saying. So, look, let's investigate those things. Let's look into them. We have state and federal regulators that are on our locations. They look into these sorts of things. But again, is it more likely that he has somehow unearthed something that no one else? There are 34 other oil and gas producing states. Seemingly no one else, they all follow pretty much the same sets of standards and protocols. Is it more likely that he has just unearthed that? Or would it appear as though he's a little disgruntled with us or taking out little aggressions on us or something? It's not comfortable. It's not anything we're comfortable with. And I think that most people, you can see in those emails, we say to him, we think this is a conflict of interest. We would prefer not to do this. The plane is not available for you, right? We don't like that. It's not comfortable for us. But I have to go home and look at my wife and pick my kids up every night, and you don't want to be part of that kind of thing, right? Yeah, but unfortunately, that's the way some people choose to conduct themselves. And if you want to make small arguments about who says what at township meetings, again, I think you can hear what he's saying, and then you hear these other videos of him, and who says what is a lot more telling than these he said, she said stories.
And I go to the cover of the Wall Street Journal the same way we started the show. This is America's future, and it's under our feet. We should embrace it rather than disgrace this conversation. Thanks. Appreciate it. Folks, we'll be right